If Napoleon Bonaparte had won the war, the world as we know it today would look very different. Napoleon's rise to power began during the French Revolution, when he rapidly ascended the ranks of the military and eventually became the leader of France. With his brilliant strategic mind and charismatic personality, Napoleon would go on to conquer much of Europe before ultimately being defeated and exiled to the island of St. Helena. However, if Napoleon had emerged victorious in the war, his impact on history would have been even more significant. To understand what might have happened if Napoleon had won the war, we must first look at the context of the time. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, Europe was undergoing significant political, social, and economic changes. The French Revolution had sparked a wave of nationalism and liberal ideas, which challenged the traditional power structures of Europe. Napoleon himself was a product of this era of change, and his rise to power was a reflection of the changing political landscape. If he had won the war, he would have continued to reshape Europe in his own image. One of the most immediate changes would have been the establishment of a French-dominated European continent. Napoleon would have extended his empire, conquering more territory and creating satellite states under his control. Napoleon's vision for Europe was one of unity and progress. He believed in a centralized government that could enforce laws and regulations across the entire continent. If he had won the war, he would have implemented his reforms throughout Europe, including his famous Napoleonic Code, which provided a unified legal system and abolished feudalism. Under Napoleon's rule, Europe would have seen a massive investment in infrastructure, including roads, bridges, canals, and public buildings. The economy would have been stimulated by increased trade and commerce, and France would have become the dominant economic power in Europe. The arts and sciences would have flourished, as Napoleon was a great patron of culture and education. However, Napoleon was also known for his authoritarian tendencies. If he had won the war, he would have likely established a strong, centralized government, which could have led to the suppression of individual rights and freedoms. His ambitions for empire building could have also led to prolonged conflicts with other nations, resulting in a more militaristic and aggressive Europe. Another consequence of Napoleon's victory could have been the disruption of the balance of power in Europe. The traditional powers, such as Britain, Russia, and Prussia, would have been weakened by their defeats, and France would have emerged as the dominant force in the region. This could have created tensions between France and other nations, potentially leading to future conflicts. Napoleon's victory could have also had significant consequences for the rest of the world. France would have had a stronger presence in colonial territories, and the global balance of power would have shifted. The United States, which was still a relatively young nation at the time, could have faced challenges from a more powerful and aggressive Europe. In terms of cultural and societal changes, Napoleon's victory would have likely led to the spread of French language and culture throughout Europe. French would have become the dominant language of diplomacy and commerce, and French culture would have influenced art, fashion, and literature. However, there may have also been resistance to the spread of French influence, particularly in regions with strong national identities. The rise of nationalism in Europe could have led to tensions between different regions and ethnic groups, potentially leading to conflicts and civil unrest. In conclusion, if Napoleon Bonaparte had won the war, the world as we know it today would look very different. Europe would have been dominated by France, and Napoleon's reforms would have had a lasting impact on politics, society, and culture.